In the history of Westeros, no war was more brutal, more personal, or more devastating than the dance of the dragons. Brother against brother, mother against son, dragon against dragon. But the dance was not lost on the battlefield alone. It was lost from within. Because while Queen Rhaenyra was busy fighting her enemies from the outside, two men, sitting in a tavern, were quietly deciding her fate. Their names were Hugh Hammer and Ulf the White. And from the very beginning, they were never truly loyal. Understand the betrayal of Hugh and Ulf. We first have to understand what they were, and more importantly, what they were not. Hugh Hammer and Ulf the White were not knights. They were not lords. They were not nobles with ancient houses and golden surnames. They were smallfolk, common men. Men who had lived their entire lives at the bottom of Westerosi society. Ignored, overlooked, and forgotten. But they carried something extraordinary in their blood. Targaryen blood. Bastard blood, yes. Diluted and distant, but enough. Enough to bond with a dragon. Enough to climb onto the back of a creature that could burn a castle to ash in minutes. When Rhaenyra's Dragon Seeds program began, her desperate search for riders to claim the riderless dragons of Dragonstone, Hugh and Ulf stepped forward, and against all odds, they succeeded. Hugh claimed the mighty Vermithor, the Bronze Fury, a dragon so massive and so powerful that even seasoned dragon riders feared him. Vermithor had not been ridden since King Jaehaerys the Conciliator himself, the greatest Targaryen king in history. And now, this dragon, this ancient engine of fire and destruction, answered to a blacksmith's son. Ulf claimed Silverwing, Queen Alysanne's dragon, graceful, swift, and deadly. A dragon with a royal history, now bonded to a man whose own history was written in poverty and obscurity. Think about what that moment meant to them. Not just the power, not just the dragon, but the transformation, the identity shift. One day, you are nobody. The next day, you are a dragon rider. You are Targaryen enough. You are part of something ancient and enormous and unstoppable. Overnight, two common men became two of the most powerful individuals in the entire war. And that is exactly where the problem began. Power changes people, but it doesn't create ambition. It only reveals it. And from the very first moment Hugh and Ulf entered Rhaenyra's service, the signs were there. Think about it carefully. These were men who had spent their entire lives being told they were nothing. No title, no land, no legacy. And then suddenly, they had dragons. Weapons that could end wars. Weapons that kings and queens would give entire kingdoms for. So, what did they want in return? Recognition, reward, respect. And Rhaenyra, fighting a war on multiple fronts, grieving her sons, managing alliances and betrayals, did not give it to them fast enough. In Season 3, Episode 1, we see a small but crucial scene. Hugh and Ulf sit together after the Battle of the Gullet. They have just fought. They have just risked their lives. Dragons they bonded with went into fire and chaos on Rhaenyra's orders. And what do they get? They sit in a tavern, drinking, like common soldiers. Ulf grumbles openly. He says, and pay attention to these words, that they deserve lordships, that a knighthood is simply not enough for dragon riders. He speaks about the queen with resentment, with a bitterness that has clearly been building for a long time. Hugh says nothing. He just thinks. He thinks about his family, his future. That silence from Hugh is arguably more dangerous than Ulf's open complaints, because Ulf's resentment is loud and emotional, but Hugh's is cold, calculated, patient. And in the Game of Thrones, patient men are the most dangerous of all. Now, here is where it gets interesting. The showrunners did not place this tavern scene randomly. Every scene in a prestige television production is a deliberate choice. The God's Eye scene, Hugh and Ulf waiting, watching, calculating, is a setup, a carefully planted seed. It is the show telling you, very clearly, watch these two men. Let's break down what we actually know about their characters based on what we've seen so far. First, Ulf. He is impulsive, loud, and driven by immediate gratification. He wants the reward now. He wants people to know his name now. This kind of person does not wait long before making a move. He is the type of man who, if the offer is good enough, will switch sides without a second thought. Not out of evil, but out of pure self-interest. Second, Hugh. He is quieter, more complex. He thinks about his family. This suggests he has people he is trying to protect and provide for. This is actually more dangerous than Ulf's greed, because Hugh's motivation is not just personal glory, it is security, permanence, a legacy for his children. That kind of motivation makes a man willing to do things he would otherwise consider unthinkable. Together, these two men are a powder keg waiting for a spark. And in the world of House of the Dragon, sparks are everywhere. But let's zoom out for a moment, because Hugh and Ulf's potential betrayal is not just a personal story. It is a mirror, reflecting the deepest flaw in Rhaenyra's entire strategy. Rhaenyra needed dragon riders desperately. She found them. She armed them. She sent them to war, but she never truly brought them into her circle. She never learned their names the way a good commander learns the names of her soldiers. She never made them feel like they belonged to her cause, not just her army. And this is not a small mistake. This is a fatal one. Think about every great leader in history, real or fictional. The ones who inspired absolute loyalty did not just offer rewards. They offered belonging. They made their followers feel seen, valued, irreplaceable. Rhaenyra did none of that. There is a crucial difference between a soldier who fights for you because you pay him and a soldier who fights for you because he believes in you. Hugh and Ulf were always the former, never the latter, and Rhaenyra, perhaps too consumed by grief, too focused on the politics of her court, too convinced that the dragons themselves were enough loyalty, never closed that gap. This is the tragic irony at the heart of the Dance of the Dragons. Rhaenyra's greatest advantage, her dragons, came with human beings attached to them, human beings with needs, with pride, with ambition, with families waiting at home, and she forgot that. So, where does this leave us going into Season 3? The Battle of the Gullet is over. Jacaerys is dead. Viserys is a prisoner. The Triarchy fleet has been destroyed, but at enormous cost. And in a tavern somewhere, two dragon riders are thinking, the question is not if Hugh and Ulf will betray Rhaenyra. The question is when, and for whom. Because in war, a dragon rider without loyalty is not just a lost asset. They are an active threat. A dragon that was yours yesterday can be burning your ships tomorrow. Rhaenyra has already lost 2 sons. She is already cracking under the weight of this war. If she loses Hugh and Ulf, she loses Vermithor and Silverwing. And that changes everything. Watch these two men carefully in the coming episodes. Watch how they are treated. Watch what they are offered. Watch what they are denied. Because the proof of their betrayal is not just coming. It is already there, if you know where to look. Hugh Hammer and Ulf the White did not start as villains. They started as men who wanted something better. Something real. Something that matched the size of what they had risked. They walked into a dragon's cave, literally, with nothing but Targaryen blood in their veins and desperation in their hearts. They survived. They bonded. They flew. And for a brief moment they must have believed that everything was about to change for them. But war has a way of breaking promises. And queens, even righteous ones, have a way of forgetting the people below them. In the end, Hugh and Ulf are not just traitors in a story. They are a warning. A warning about what happens when you hand someone unimaginable power, and then treat them like they are still nothing. The Dance of the Dragons has many dragons, but its most dangerous weapons are the men who ride them. If you want to know what happens next, and trust me, you do, make sure you're subscribed. Because the betrayal that's coming will not just change this war, it will destroy everything Rhaenyra has built, and we will break it all down for you right here.